What exactly was the star that led the wise men to Bethlehem? Was it a freak of nature? A moving star that actually led these men on what would have been about a 2-month journey from some country east of Israel, probably Iraq or Iran? That's roughly the distance from Washington, D.C. to Kansas City. Or was it a naturally occurring astronomical event? Maybe a rare alignment of planets and stars in a way that sent the wise men clues. One clue, the birth of a king, and another clue, the Jewish nation. The Bible isn't clear about it. Here's what it says about that star. Some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn king of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we've come to worship him." That was a shock to King Herod, let me tell you. He didn't have a newborn son, and paranoid as he was, he had already killed 2 of his own sons because he suspected them of plotting a coup. He would kill a 3rd son later, giving the order from his deathbed. Herod consulted his Bible experts about this odd request from the wise men. His scholars said the prophet Micah predicted the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, so Herod pointed the visitors in that direction. Apparently because the Star of Bethlehem didn't. All it managed to do was direct them to the capital of the Jewish homeland. Herod, by the way, planned to kill the baby boy if the wise men ever found him. Here's the last thing the Bible says about the star and about what happened after the wise men traveled to Bethlehem some 6 miles south, which is 10 kilometers. The star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. What kind of star would act like that? Bible experts offer several theories. One theory, it was no star at all. It was a celestial being. Or maybe something like that glowing pillar of light that led Moses and the Jews out of Egypt more than 1,000 years earlier. This is probably the theory that tracks best with this story. But why would they call it a star? Did the pillar of light simply travel at a higher altitude? Who knows? Another theory? It was a supernova, an exploding star. Ancient astronomers in what is now China and Korea reported what sounds like an exploding star. They watched it from March to April in 5 BC. That date would fall nicely into the timeline of Jesus' birth. He was born before King Herod died, and Herod died a year after that supernova in 4 BC. But here's the most popular theory. It wasn't a star. It was many stars, and a couple of planets. It was actually a rare astronomical event that pointed the astronomers to the Jewish homeland. Jews scattered throughout the civilized world were anticipating the arrival of the Messiah at any moment. Romans had been occupying their homeland for a century, and the Jews were fed up with it. They were zeroing in on prophecies about a Messiah who would come and save them. Messiah hopes were at fever pitch. Perhaps the wise men in the East knew this, since Jews lived among them. If that is what happened, then what they saw in 7 BC may have made perfect sense to them. 2 glowing planets lined up in one particular constellation. Not just any planets, not just any constellation. The planets were Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter represented kings. That's because this giant planet was named after Jupiter, the Roman king of gods. Greeks called him Zeus. Saturn represented Jews. That's because Jews worshipped on the day of the week named after the god Saturn, Saturday. The constellation, Pisces. It means fish. As far as stargazers were concerned, it represented the land beside the Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. That's where you'll find the Jewish homeland. King, Jews, Israel, those are the clues. That's what the alignment would have suggested to the stargazers. Go to Israel, look for a king. Here's what they would have seen over Jerusalem, looking south to Bethlehem. This rare alignment happened about every 20 years, but in 7 BC, it happened 3 times. That triple alignment occurs just once in a millennium. As far as these ancients were concerned, it had never happened before. The timing works too. In the Bible story, Herod killed all the Bethlehem boys aged 2 and under. He got that number from the wise men. 2 years earlier was apparently when they first saw the sign in the heavens. Perhaps it took them that long to organize their expedition and then travel the roughly 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers. If that's what happened, then the earliest Jesus could have been born was 6 BC, 2 years before Herod died. So 7 BC, when this triple alignment took place, fits nicely into the timeline. That's 3 years before Herod died. No theory of naturally occurring events tracks perfectly with the Bible story. That's because the Bible writer telling this story suggested the light actually moved. But maybe he meant only that it seemed to move ahead of them because it was in front of them and hovering high above Bethlehem. If so, maybe the wise men didn't follow just one star. Perhaps it was a choir of stars and planets that drew them to Jesus. That idea isn't all that far off from what the shepherds said they saw on the night of Jesus' birth. Lights in the sky. The brightness of the Lord's glory flashed around them. Some Bible experts say it seems strangely appropriate that lights in the sky would point to the child who would grow up to become known as the light of the world.